Our firm represents some of the finest properties in the South. These are some of America's last best places, and stewards of these lands are true conservation heroes. They've trusted our team to show their property's unique intrinsic value, monetize that value through a sale, and see to it that the next landowner will protect the legacy that they've built. As part of our 30th anniversary, we created a short film series honoring these landowners and telling their story. Today's story is certainly one of a kind. You'll hear about Oldfields Canyon, what acts like a bathtub drain for a 10,000-acre lake that flows directly into the Florida aquifer. You'll hear how over thousands of years they exposed a treasure trove of flint, making its first landowners so wealthy that they built a prehistoric city here. You'll see the tallest Indian mountain in Florida, which for hundreds of years acted as North Florida's capital. You'll learn why in 1824 it was named Oldfields by the territory's first surveyors. Your understanding of America's first people is about to be forever changed. In the modern era too, this property has been revered. Today's conservationists have continued to honor this land, as it's been turned into a recreational paradise. It's no exaggeration to say it offers some of the best trophy, deer, wild quail, and turkey hunting found anywhere in America. You'll see some of the best examples of Greek Revival architecture and recreational facilities designed to enjoy God's great outdoors with others. By now, it probably won't surprise you to learn that this property was deemed so important to the citizens of the state of Florida that the governor and the cabinet purchased the development rights, ensuring that the ancient city would remain undisturbed and wildlife and recreation would remain its future. It's hard to imagine they were just 17 miles from the steps of today's capital. We know this property well. I've been a part of it a long time and excited to share its story. Welcome to one of Florida's most significant places. Welcome to Oldfields. To tell today's story, it's best to start with the past. Here, that means going back 150 centuries to the oldest known evidence of humans in all of North America. In fact, we are honored to have Dr. Jim Dunbar himself, one of America's most respected paleontologists, whose discoveries changed what we know about North America's first people by about 15 centuries. His insight is sought out, and we are thankful he has shared his time with us today. Thanks for coming out here. It's quite an honor.
Well, no, I appreciate being able to come out. It's been a while since I've been out here.
I think, what, 2005? And we worked on that together. We sold the conservation easement here to the state of Florida.
Yeah, I know.
Now, are you the one, refresh my memory, did you coin this, the site of a prehistoric city?
Well, I don't know that I had coined that, but with Letchworth, what they're finding out is quite unlike some of the big temple mound sites that you find around the state, even of its own age, in that a lot of the big ceremonial centers were the sites of big towns. Well, Letchworth wasn't. It was, I guess, a site where they came in maybe seasonally or during a time of some kind of religious rites or something like that, and they held their ceremonies and then they went back home, and they were dispersed all up and down Lake Miccosukee drains, and sort of the valley areas. The Weeden Island people were primarily the occupants.
So what year would that have been?
That would be somewhere in the, I don't know, 650 to maybe 450 AD to 1000 AD, somewhere in that ballpark. The Letchworth Mounds is one of the, it's 50 feet tall, the big main mound. The smaller ones are burial. The big one, I think it was more of a ceremonial type of thing.
Well, let's talk about what made this area so famous with that discovery down at Page Ladson's site.
Well, everybody was saying that, oh, I believe Clovis is first. You can't have a site that old.
So essentially, you found it, the first known evidence of North America about 150 centuries older than we thought.
Right. But I think that this part of the southeast was occupied uninterrupted since at least 14,500 years.
Wow. Wow. So in 1824, the first territorial surveyors put on a note that they found Indian old fields here on this property.
And I think we found it with the corn cob.
Well, what made old fields, this area right in here, so special? I mean, this was kind of like the epicenter, different cultures.
Well, I think it's the natural environment. It's back to the location.
Or like the canyon we talked about. Today's old fields benefits from good decision of past land stewards, and no one knows more about stewardship than Tall Timbers. Their science-based land management recommendations and conservation ethic has forever shaped the Red Hills and changed the way America thinks about prescribed fire. They are the #1 source of knowledge about increasing bobwhite quail and conserving this and other endemic species. But Shane, thanks so much for coming out to Old Fields today. We really appreciate your time.
No, you're welcome. Glad to do it, John.
So when you see a place like this on your way in, I mean, what thoughts go through your head, looking at the habitat?
Well, what immediately comes to mind is you look at that ground cover. And remember, I'm a biologist by training, right? So I'm thinking about it from the way you might manage it for wildlife or for quail. But what makes a great place is the ground cover. The trees are important too, but it's that ground cover is where the quail live. It's where the diversity is. And this place has just been managed spectacularly. You can tell that they're doing their fire. You can tell they're managing their forest, which is critical to the ground cover, and it shows. Yeah, that's really what makes the Red Hills so unique, is that there's active prescribed fire, frequent prescribed fire that's being done every year throughout the Red Hills, and they've been doing it here a long time. I mean, think about it, from a regional perspective, this is a place that's been lighting fires every spring for 100 years, and that really makes it unique and special. And what's happened is we have a culture, we have managers, we have foresters that understand what fire is and how to practice fire and implement fire, and you see it on these landscapes. These open pine woods are open and maintained so beautifully because of that active use of frequent fire.
At our firm, we have a reverence for the land manager. They remind me of the story of the Old Testament's Joseph, where the Pharaoh put him in charge, and so long as his good advice was heeded, all prospered. Here at Old Fields, we have one of the most knowledgeable managers in the region, someone I've worked with for almost 20 years. I don't know anyone that has more passion, not only managing a property, but sharing their enthusiasm for God's great outdoors with others. I mean, there's a landowner, and then there's you as a manager, and you really show your hand in this property. What's your philosophy? I mean, what do you do here that makes this place so different, so unique?
Well, we have kind of boiled down all the fancy stuff to really some simple principles. We really try to work on the habitat, the feed, the predator control, and the solitude. That's kind of the crux of our management program.
So when people leave the hunt here, what's the #1 thing they say they love so much about this property?
Well, they just love the place, they love the woods, they love the abundant wildlife, and they like the staff. They like the people that work here, and they love the animals. We have a tremendous kennel. We have 11 horses, and it's just a total package.
So let's talk about, let's break it down into quail hunting. When you first came here, this is a pre-release program. A really good one.
Yes, it was. The previous owner was real big into release birds, and what we tried to do is accomplish his goals, but start working towards a wild bird program in the process. We started moving the whole program in that direction. Seems like we've got a really good crop of quail this year.
Let's talk about the duck pond. The Old Fields Pond is one of the most unique duck ponds. It's right on the edge of Lake Miccosukee, but the way this pond's designed, the way it draws, it's just fascinating.
What's nice about Old Fields is you have a ringneck or diver duck pond that we flood deep, and then we also have a shallow pond for wood duck and teal. We have a few holes that we shoot wood ducks in, but it's wonderful to have both those combinations.
And let's talk about the turkey hunting. I mean, the turkey hunting is some of the best in the country right here.
The genetics here, the turkeys, we have big spurs, big weights, big beards. We do intensive predator control, and we try to control the number of birds we take every year, but we really try to move our birds into an older age class. And a lot of our birds here get up to 23 pounds, and we have you know, really big spurs and big beards, and everybody seems to love it.
Well, let's talk about 200-inch deer. I mean, you have more than 200-inch deer here, and this
We
is
do
under
have.
your guidance, yeah.
Yeah, we about 4 years ago, we took part of the property and converted it into a preserve. It's about 1,200 acres. What we wanted to do is try to create as much natural hunting experience as possible. You don't see the fence very much. The food plots are, you know, located in the right places. The other thing we wanted to do is we wanted to bring our number of deer down from our native deer, try to increase our buck-doe ratio and our age class. And that's real hard to do in North Florida without a preserve. So we were able to put that together, and the fruit is ripe. It's about 4 years old. We have a tremendous group of, you know, bucks that are over 150. We have some over 200. And it's just wonderful to be around deer like that.
So what's the program? You have like a Mark Owens genetic who's kind of guru in Florida.
Well, we try to keep our deer numbers low. We're trying to run around 100 deer in the preserve, 50% of those being bucks, and we're trying to cut the age class in quarters. We want a quarter of those deer to be 4 or 5 years old, and we have 2 lakes, you know, that are full of bass between 7 and 10 pounds. We have a lot of forage, shiners, shad, brim, and you know, we feed those high protein feed, and we add to that forage every year. You know, we have diffusers and aerators, and we have a biologist that monitors our water quality once a month, and we just try to keep those ponds at optimum level. And it's the same thing, you know, people like to fish, but people really like to catch trophy bass. And so it's real nice when you have somebody come out that's never caught a bass, you know, that big. And the same thing, I don't look at the fish, I look at them. You know, it's just amazing to, you know, when you see someone catch a fish that big, it's the fish of the lifetime. We have a dove field. It's a small dove field. It's about 6 acres, but it's in a natural flyway, and there's quite a bit of migratory birds. Well, one thing about oil fields that makes it so nice is the diversity of it. Some of the different places that we've managed or we've had have been real strong in quail hunting. They might have a real good duck pond. They may have a good dove field, you know, but they may have a few deer, they might have a few turkeys. But what's so nice about oil fields is it's diverse. It has beautiful red hills. It has, you know, the lake drain with the canyon on it. It has a beautiful hardwood hammock on it. You know, it's just diverse habitat, and it has grade A quail hunting, duck hunting, dove hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, bass fishing. It just checks all the boxes. That's what's so nice about oil fields.
From Florida's tallest Indian mound, built 18 centuries ago, to one of modern Florida's best examples of Greek Revival architecture, there's something about this place that lends to great building. The home here was built by none other than Skip Sheffield and designed by Ginger Wetherell Scott, the same team that gave us the FSU President's Mansion and several other notable plantation homes. Greek Revival architecture first became popular in the 1830s as symbolic of America's new form of democracy, which was invented by the Greeks. To do it right, Greek Revival style has to follow a basic set of ratios and shapes. It's much harder to accomplish than most realize. What they built here is a historically accurate and architecturally correct exterior with a modern interior. Inside features a Winchester Firearms original display cases, heart pine, a theater, workout room and office, a saltwater pool, detached garage, gardens, and a 975 square foot guest home complete the setting. Not to be outdone, the kennel at Oldfields is one of the finest of any plantation and home to 20 seasoned bird dogs. The nearby stables for the plantation's 11 walking horses is a combination of open air and traditional design and has its own living quarters. The equipment barn is solid steel construction and well designed for storing and serving the roughly $250,000 in equipment and supplies. We hope that you've enjoyed this inside look at Oldfields, how this land has shaped our nation's history, and how sportsmen and other conservationists came together to preserve it for future generations. Remember too, God created this world, but He gave mankind dominion over it. We'd like to share our gratitude to the 150 centuries of landowners that came before us for being great stewards of this very special property.